This conference will now be recorded.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you, everybody, for being at our Monday night PowerUp, GOGI PowerUp meeting. We're going to go ahead and get right into it. And I actually have the wrong one up. The other one, I think I'm fully prepared. I don't have the front bit, and I know I had the front bit somewhere. All right, hold on a second here. Jeez Louise. First 4 pages, that's what I'm looking for right there, and we really don't need that one. Okay, all right. So, make this a little smaller. Okay, Savina, would you like to call our meeting to order, please?
Of course. We call this meeting to order. The purpose of GOGI is to provide simple tools to anyone interested in making more positive decisions in their lives. The goal of PowerUp is to create a purpose and meaning of service for that week. That is where GOGI gets their power. We power up by living a life of service.
Awesome, thank you. And our GOGI tools for positive decision making are boss of my brain, belly breathing, 5-second light switch, positive thoughts, positive words, positive actions, claim responsibility, let go, forgive, what if, reality check, and ultimate freedom. So what was our tool from last week?
Belly breathing?
Belly breathing, correct. That's always a good one. In fact, that's Rebecca's favorite. So the statement of ownership for belly breathing is, with belly breathing, I can instantly relax my body and I can make positive decisions. What did we find, how did we find that belly breathing is beneficial when dealing with anxiety, which is the topic we're trying to focus on in this cycle of tools?
But with anxiety, you sometimes, depending on the levels of anxiety, you can hyperventilate. So when you're breathing from your belly, you're taking a deep breath and exhaling all the negativity out. So it helps you ground yourself again.
Correct. And when you're speaking of grounding, that reminds me of those 2 pictures. You know, one of them, what was the first thing that we're supposed to do when it comes to our feet?
Oh, stand up straight, put them flat on the floor.
Yep. That way we have a really, really good balance, so we can take that deep breath.
Mm-hmm.
And then, are we pushing our chest out when we're belly breathing?
No.
What are we pushing out, like a balloon? Stomach, which some of us have no problem doing whatsoever. Sometimes it looks like a balloon even when we're not pushing it out. All right, and one of the things that we learned about too, because we went over the science behind the tool, and what was it saying when we were going over the fight or flight response and our breathing? How is our breathing affected when we have that fight or flight response? Are we able to belly breathe, or?
Let's see.
Let me see how.
It was yeah, you can't, let me put it. It was more like shallow breathing, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. So it's like, it's like when we're scared or something like that. So we're not really able to get in the really good belly breaths. And is that something that we can maintain? That kind of breathing, is it something that's good for us?
No.
Not that kind, no.
No. And I can't remember if it was in this one. Oh, yes. Yeah, okay, that horrible cortisol. God, I hate that cortisol. So would you remember what it said about cortisol and what happens if too much of it pumps into our system?
We could become hostile?
Well, it knocks our chemicals, our hormones and our chemicals out of balance, right?
Yes.
So, and they were saying that a lot for women, of course, us poor women, that high levels of cortisol is seen in women, or I guess just in people, but it seems like it affects women who have extra weight around their middle. So like that stress weight that they say we carry, this whole middle part is supposed to be weight that's caused by stress and from so much of that cortisol pumping into our bodies, because then our body feels like after a while it's supposed to be like that, right? It adjusts yeah. And so belly breathing can actually help us lose weight if we do it enough, because then we'll be less stressed and we won't have that fight or flight, and we won't need so much cortisol. I still don't fully understand what the cortisol does, but I just now it's negative in my mind because I'm blaming my fat on it. So yeah, so it says that this is how I'm supposed to be. That's our stress. Our body thinks stress is the natural state that it's supposed to be. So it is pumping out more cortisol and tightening up our muscles. So I've definitely been trying to belly breathe a little bit more, just for the sheer fact of trying not to gain any more weight. Okay. So all in all, how is belly breathing beneficial? In what ways?
Where it makes us lose weight.
Right?
It calms you down. It gives you a second to, if you can think to do it, it calms you down because you're getting that oxygen that you should have to make more rash decisions, better decisions.
Is it one of your go-to tools, you guys? Do you find yourself using it often or not?
Unconsciously, yes. Actually going to it just because I'm thinking about belly breathing, no, but unconsciously I've caught myself in the last week, several times having to sit on my chair up straight, put my feet on the floor and breathe because of certain situations at work that start occurring. And I'm gonna be here and I'll be honest, I don't relate it to the GOGI right there and then, but after then it's like, okay, because I think I already planted the seed in my mind, but I don't. It's not,
absolutely, yeah.
It's not that it's not the first thing that I think of GOGI. I'm being honest right now because my mind isn't a focus on the problem, the issue that I'm having at the time. But I have caught myself belly breathing and just getting myself grounded in the chair or standing up or walking because it's been this past week. So
I think that's the way, I think that's probably the way when it becomes habit, that it probably is going to be like with you. It's a natural thing you do. I think a lot of times it will become like that, just like any other habit. Instead of stopping and thinking, okay, GOGI, my tool, whatever, it's just now going to become something that you do. It's part of your life. So that's good. I think that's a good thing. I still have to kind of tell myself, I just kind of have to like get myself on that thought, and then it kind of triggers me just enough to go, okay, so this is what I have to do, and then I talk to myself through the whole thing and everything. But I think it is probably one of them that I do the most when I actually use the tools. It's probably one of them I use the most. How about you, Savina?
I think that I think that I do use it. I tend to use the boss of my brain a lot because I always think, what am I thinking with the smart part of my brain? I think that automatically now. So I kind of like that one, but I do use belly breathing when I'm gonna send an email back to somebody that wants something 2 months early, and that's crazy to me. And I'm gonna send it back like, really, so I have to stop. And I
Right.
did do belly breathing today when I was gonna send one of those emails, and I just wrote back, okay.
Right.
So yeah,
I think, and GOGI has helped me to do the same thing. I now automatically think before I send an email, and because I'm famous for getting in trouble for typing and not thinking before I hit send. So it definitely does help me.
I think that's almost where it helps me the most. One time my husband and I were having a discussion and I wanted to keep interrupting him, and I remember that I kept thinking, I want to belly breathe and just listen to him. And even though I wasn't really listening to him as much as I should have been, I was belly breathing, and that was helping me not interrupt him.
Yeah. It's hard sometimes. It's hard sometimes, I know. All right, so I think we've covered that one thoroughly. So what is our tool for this week, which is the third week of October, according to the GOGI calendar? Where are we?
5-second light switch.
5-second light switch, awesome. All right, so now let's jump back over to 5-second light switch. And our statement of ownership for 5-second light switch is I can flip my 5-second light switch and instantly change any negative thought to a positive action. There is no negative thought more powerful than my positive action when I flip my 5-second light switch. We want to repeat this week's statement of ownership as often as possible before we get out of bed, before our meals, during a break, and before sleeping. We can write this statement for added emphasis, and our weekly statement of ownership reinforces this week's tool. All right, so Joanne, you want to go ahead and read the rest of this page here? Starting with the weeks to study 5-second light switch, please.
Okay. Weeks to study 5-second light switch are third week of January, third week of April, third week of July, third week of October. Keywords, 5-second light switch. Old thought equals new action. I have an old thought and I have a new action. Objective, 5-second light switch. Your goal this week is to build a new habit of choosing a new positive action every time you have an old negative thought. You can do this by using your 5-second light switch, which is this week's tool. Tool intro, 5-second light switch. Here's an example. When you are told, just don't think about smoking a cigarette, it seems that's all you can think about is the cigarette. When beginning to train your mind to create other thoughts, it is nearly impossible to think that you could simply stop thinking about something that consumed a lot of thinking for a long time. That is why 5-second light switch works. It realizes that your mind has been trained to head down a particular road, almost like autopilot. The GOGI tool 5-second light switch permits you to observe that thought and then replace that thought with a new, more positive and productive action. At any time before you do something negative, you can actually send a new message to a different part of your brain and do something more positive. It's like deciding to turn on an alternate light switch in a room, a more positive switch in your brain. At GOGI, we call this flipping the 5-second light switch. This tool provides you with the power to reroute your brain activity so you are able to be stronger in your positive choices.
Okay, thank you. So when it's talking about the 5-second light switch, we know that we're replacing an old negative thought with a new positive action. So, but what I always find it interesting because I've been reading about this metacognition, and this whole science thing is it's just awesome. And so the metacognition is like thinking about thinking, right? Observing your thinking and your thoughts and everything, which I think kind of goes hand in hand with GOGI a lot. But also here, it said that, why do I always lose it? Permits you, oh, right here. What does it tell us? What is this? What was the point here in that sentence? What are we doing with our thought?
Observe the thought and replace it with the new one.
Yeah, so we're observing it, right? We're becoming aware of it. We're saying, okay, here is this thought. I'm having this thought. So you're acknowledging that you're having the thought. It's like, you're working with yourself to figure out, okay, this is, a negative thought. Okay, now I need to have something prepared to replace it. So by acknowledging that thought, it's almost like we're not punishing ourselves for the thought, right? We're acknowledging it, and we realize we're going to have to replace it with something. So that whole aspect of actually almost having a conversation with yourself when you're dealing with the old habit part and then the emotional part, like Savina, what you said, what part of my brain am I using right now? That's a lot like, metacognition. You're thinking about what you're thinking. And I think it helps us really become more aware of ourselves and maybe not as judgmental as sometimes we are with ourselves. So I thought that was an interesting point, because does it help just to say, oh, I need to stop thinking about that?
No.
I just need to stop thinking. It doesn't, does it? Not at all. It almost makes it.
I'm sorry. I think that's why that you replace your thought with an action, because it's not just a thought you're replacing it with, it's an action. So you're completely switching modes.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, and Rebecca did that. Last time we had to go through this, remember, she stopped smoking. So every time she wanted a cigarette, she got up and she took a walk. So she didn't just try to stop thinking about it. She actually did something that would distract her mind from whatever her thought was and maybe put it on a different path. And I think that's part of the beginning of that, creating that new neural pathway, starting to put in that little wedge and creating that new neural pathway that will hopefully at some point become a new habit.
I agree. I think this is very powerful. I think this is scientifically something very powerful. I think that this is how you work. I think the big key is, like you said, noticing, because I can't think of all of my life, which has been a long time. I've been a reactive kind of person, just like putting out fires, just living my life, not noticing what I'm doing. I remember people used to ask me things like, what's your favorite whatever? What's your favorite hobby? I didn't know. I was just living my life. I had.
Yeah. Yeah. I come from a family of reactors. That's what we are. Everybody's a reactor. And it's funny because we crave that reaction from other people sometimes now, because, sometimes you just want somebody to react. But like you said, when you're reacting, you're not even really taking enough time to be aware of what it is that's going on around you. So like now that I actually stop and take a couple minutes to say, what am I thinking? And then trying to remember what I just thought, but try to analyze it without judging. For me, that's a big deal. I want to analyze it. I want to accept it. Okay, now let me be the solution. What am I going to do now? And I think that that's something that can be really healthy for those of us that are very, very difficult on ourselves and have that negative self-talk. Yeah. See, I love the science. The science I love the science behind it because it makes sense to me.
It explains what's happening. I mean, it's so funny because it started out just like, okay, let's just do these simple things because they help us. And then you find out, wow, it's really scientific.
Right, exactly. Because I know that you first looking at this and you're like, okay, belly breathe. You know, it's like simple little things that you would teach a child. And then I started digging in and I started reading some of her older books. And I'm like, that pink book is full of all the science. And I was like, whoa, this stuff actually this could actually get people in the community to actually pay attention to the tools, you know, because it is something that is, what's that called? What did you say that it had to be, Joanne?
Evidence-based.
Evidence-based, exactly. Yeah, evidence-based. And so, you know, now it's like trying to pulling all the good stuff, all the science out of it is really cool because now it's kind of gives you that aha moment, like, oh, okay, that makes sense why it works then. All right. Okay, Savina, would you like to read this page? One thing I did, you guys, and I totally forgot I had done this, when I started revamping the PowerUp, the Teach Me How to GOGI book for Coach, I took this activity. This activity is always after how to use whatever the tool is. And I remember I took it out and I put it at the back because I was like, why is it right in the middle? It's kind of just a mess. And now I realize why it's right in the middle because it, you know, it's nice to have that activity. And I think they put it right here because she's much smarter than me. And obviously knew that it needed to be right here, kind of to do a pause. So can you want to go ahead and read this part and then we'll just go ahead, we'll do the activity.
Sure.
So read how to use,
Okay.
please.
How to use 5-second light switch. You can use the 5-second light switch tool when your thoughts seem to be the boss of you. When an urge seems really, really strong, the 5-second light switch is a powerful tool to use. The key to 5-second light switch is to have your replacement action ready. If you have your replacement action ready, you are likely to have great success with 5-second light switch. When a thought enters your mind, instead of letting it take over, notice. I noticed my thought. Wow. Old thought. New action. And I have a new action. Your positive action is the key to successful flipping the 5-second light switch if you are able. You can actually go to the light switch where you are, and this will remind you that you are the boss and can flip the switch inside your brain at any time.
Cool. Okay. So I know we did this. We've done this activity. And hi, Alfred.
Hello.
Hi, Alfred.
Hello. Maybe I can get Alfred to do a tracing of his hand and submit his my fives. Because this is, I think all of us have one of ours in here, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, it was kind of something we did last time we went through the tools. I had everybody just, you know, trace out their hand and do the whole my five, and then we kind of put it all together. But it's cool. So, okay, so, and I'm sure you've done this several times, this activity, Alfred. So, trouble in, okay, well, let's do this. Because it's 5 different, so let's do it the way Coach Johnny taught us when he facilitated. So, Alfred, why don't you go first? Pick 1 through 5 of the activity you'd like to do, and then we'll do that, and then you can pick somebody else who can pick whatever activity they want.
Let me see. I want to go with the number 2, the my 5.
Okay.
Now think of.
Well, go ahead and read that one.
It says number 2, my 5. Now think of 5 reasons why you are choosing a new positive action. Name each.
Oh, you know what? Wait a second. They're all in order, aren't they, you guys? This is all, I'm sorry, this is all one activity. I thought it was 5 separate activities. Okay, you know what, Alfred, start with number 1. Read number 1, please.
Trouble in my hand. It says, please hold out your hand. Imagine a poor choice sitting in your hand. A poor choice that came from an old thought.
Okay, so let's pause and do that. Let's imagine holding our hands, okay? Close our eyes if that helps. Imagine a poor choice sitting in our hand. Okay, so everybody tell me when you got your poor choice.
Got it.
Got it.
Got it.
Got it. Okay. Now, Alfred, go ahead and read number 2, please.
It says, now, my 5. Now think of the 5 reasons why you are choosing a new positive action. Name each reason out loud or to yourself so that you can hear the 5 reasons why you want to make a more positive choice. You can count them on your fingers. So,
okay, so Alfred, you want to start?
Yeah, so my thing would be, says, magic porch sitting in your hand. So my poor choice would be like for me to go back to drugs, right?
Okay.
I've been clean for a long time. So my 5 reasons why I'm not going to go back to drugs is because, one is God, then my recovery, my family, my freedom, and well, my children, my family, and my freedom. Those are my 5 reasons why I won't use, because I know that if I use, and that's what's going to happen, is I'm going to lose all of that. Even if I place any one of those things in front of God, I know that it's going to go all downhill. So I got to keep those 5 things always in order. You know, I always got to keep God and recovery first, because without that, those first 2 in my life, then the next 3, it's not going to matter, because when I start using, that's it. It's off the door.
Yeah.
So,
okay. Who wants to go next with that poor choice?
I'll go.
Okay.
My poor choice is putting hands on somebody.
Is what?
Putting hands on somebody, kicking somebody's ass.
Who is this, Joanne?
Yes, it's Joanne.
You sounded like Sabina. Okay. And I think we know who that person might be. Okay, that's a good poor choice. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, it's a very poor choice, because I contemplated in my mind, I played it out how it would go is like I have to position myself in the right place at the office.
Oh, wow.
I've taken it that far. So
wow.
I had a belly breathe. I had to do all my tools. I can't react that way, because my 5 is first and foremost my recovery. I'm not the old person I was 12 years ago. And God, God put me there in my recovery, so I should put that one first. God, and then my recovery. I got a lot to lose. I'm not the same person I was 12 years ago, so I worked my ass off to be where I'm at work.
Yeah.
Even though I'm unhappy where I'm at, but I worked a lot to be in where I'm at. 4th, my family, and 6, just who I am. I mean, my own credibility, my integrity of what I represent now. So those are my 5 reasons.
Awesome. Okay. All right. So, Savina, you want to go? Okay.
I have caught myself this week, and maybe I just did it so often, and now I'm just noticing things, but I've caught myself calling myself names like, you're such a stupid head, or why did you do that? You're so stupid.
The way you said that. You're funny. Okay. Well, it's good that you're catching yourself. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I have been catching myself, because I'll stop and say, that's not a good way to talk about yourself. I know that seems kind of benign, but it actually can affect a lot of things in your life if you talk to yourself like this. So
absolutely.
I know this isn't like what I wrote down on my little hand there, my little mitten thing that I made, but I think the 5 reasons that I don't want to talk to myself like I'm stupid is number 1, of course, God, because He didn't make anything stupid. And number 2, I would say because of my own countenance. If I'm talking to myself like that, I'm going to walk around with a frown on my face. I'm going to walk around. People are going to tell me, why don't you smile? I don't like if people tell me that. So You know, that's another reason, because of my countenance. Because of my relationships with people, I don't want them to think that I'm a negative person. I guess for my kids also, because if I'm talking to myself like that, I'm talking to them like that. And I don't know what else. I guess at my job, I don't want to be that kind of person. I want to be a positive person.
Awesome.
So I think
Okay.
I think
All right. Mine fluctuate. There's so many of them. Which one am I gonna pick this time? I think probably the overriding like big ticket item for me is that I function on guilt and obligation. I don't know how to say. I feel like I have to fix everything and take care of people, and so I get myself in positions where I have a tendency to be taken advantage of, and I walk myself right into that. I feel like I have to help this person. Well, what I don't realize is there's immediate help, but what happens is there's always something that goes along with that immediate help. It's not like that goes away, because the people I help have a tendency to hook on to that, and then it's continuous, and then I resent it, right? But it's my fault. So I need to work. That's my big emotional and old habit thing. I need to stop doing that at some point. And my reasons, number one is my sanity. Because it causes me to be extremely overwhelmed, and I'm one of those people where I want to cut everybody off and crawl into a hole, and I've done it before, and I don't want to go there anymore. So my sanity, my kids, my job, because everything in my life affects everything else in my life. I don't know how to compartmentalize things, so it will affect my job, my relationship with my friends. And honestly, this is horrible to say, but I unfortunately have God on the back burner right now, which is probably going to be the big ticket item next time. And I'm aware of that. And I understand he has to be front and everything else has to revolve around him, but I'm just not there right now. So those are my 5 for needing to get myself out of a self-destructive behavior of trying to fix everybody. So, okay. So then what's number 3 say, Alfred?
Hold on. Let me see. Number 3 is I gotta enlarge my screen.
You want me to read it?
Squash the trouble.
Yep. Go ahead.
Now make a fist and imagine squashing that old thought and poor choice with your 5 reasons to make a more positive choice.
Okay, so we're making that fist and we're squashing the old thought with the 5 reasons. So all that good stuff, smashing all the bad. Okay, now go ahead. What's 4?
The 4 is my positive. What positive action can you do right now instead? So for me, I'd probably go get on the treadmill. Go get on the treadmill.
Oh, you brave man. That is the last thing I would do, but that's awesome that you would do that. Okay, so you would go get on the treadmill, okay? Joanne?
Me? Oh my God! Right now.
What do you do when you're having that I want to kick her butt feeling?
I gotta belly breathe. That's my positive action.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. There's your wedge, right? That's your wedge right there. Okay.
Yeah, because I'm at work, so I mean everything else is revolving at the same time, and it's just building and building. So I have to catch myself and belly breathe. And remember, it's like I have the choice of being in that job or not. So.
Right.
Yeah, but that's my positive action. Belly breathe.
Okay. Savina?
Okay, well, I do a couple of things.
Okay.
I might step outside and throw the ball to the dog, because that's always fun for me to watch her chase the ball and bring it back to me. Or I have an inversion machine right next to my desk, and I might get on my inversion machine and hang upside down for a little while.
Nice.
What? Really?
She turns into a bat. She turns into a bat.
I am so afraid I'll be so big I collapse it on top of myself. That really works? It holds you? Well, I mean, I'm not seeing you. I'm sure you're not big, but I couldn't imagine it holding me. Wow.
It holds my brother. My brother's 6'3", about 250 pounds. It holds him.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. It's supposed to feel good.
We're on birth control.
I would think it would also pull out your spine. You know how we all compact, they say, from gravity? Yeah. Does it like stretch you out?
Yeah, it does. It does stretch you out. And if you have any aches and pains and whatever in your legs and knees, whatever, just do it a few times a day, 2 minutes at a time, and it helps.
Wow. Does it make you lightheaded?
No, not really. Yeah, if you do it too long, probably. But
I'm gonna have to
listen to a song or something.
I'm gonna have to try. I just know me. I'd probably get stuck in that position, right? I could just see. I'm always afraid of looking stupid, but that's cool. That's cool.
It actually happened to me the first time.
Did it?
I was too excited to get in it, and I got hung upside down, and I couldn't get out, and I was all by myself. And
kind of like a turtle, right, on your back. And that's how I think I would feel. Oh wow!
I had to work my feet out of the little things and just do like a somersault. It was kind of interesting.
Oh yeah, somersault. I don't think that's ever even been in my vocabulary. Okay, all right. So that's okay. Good. So you got two things. So my thing is I'm still sitting here with my freaking hand clenched and my fingernails digging into my hand. So the first thing I would do is open my hand and toss whatever it is away. I have to have like that whole physical, the act of doing something. And then what I've learned to do lately is I have to physically kick myself out of whatever trance it is that I'm in where I'm fixated on it. And I have to cause myself, I talk to myself, I'm like, okay, knock it off. And I'll like get up and I'll walk. And as soon as I get up and I walk out of the room, my mind's on something totally different. So getting myself out of fixating is a big deal for me, because if I can get out of fixating, then I'm good to get fixated on something else then. So that's the positive action I've been choosing instead of reacting like I normally would react. So awesome. Okay, so we all have our old thought, our old bad thought. We all have chosen our new positive action, and we're going to be good. And maybe we'll even learn from each other's positive stuff. I mean, I might enjoy hanging upside down. Who knows? That might be really cool.
It is.
Okay. It reminds me of Barney Fife. I don't know why, because he didn't hang upside down. But remember when Barney needed to be an inch taller to get his, he was coming up for review, and he shrunk because he was all compacted. So he hung himself in Andy's closet by one of those neck things. I don't know what, that always reminds me of that, because you're stretching yourself out. And he actually stretched out an inch. His spine stretched out, so he actually got to keep his job. So I don't know why it always reminds me. But it does, the whole stretching thing. Okay. All right, squirrel. All right, let's get back to it. Okay, so who wants to read? That's kind of a big bit. Here, I'll go ahead and read the part. So review 5-second light switch. 5-second light switch is widely considered the best of the tools by students who claim they are impulsive. Those who claim that sometimes things happen before they even think they had the thoughts. People with quick minds and even quicker actions enjoy the fact that GOGI does not hammer in the idea that simply stopping the thought is going to work. It oftentimes does not work for the person with a quick mind and an old habit. You can think of your thoughts like a series of overhead lights. You get to choose which ones you switch on and which ones you ignore. Remember, no one else is the boss of your brain. Oh, I should probably read this one. 5-second light switch can help you build new neural pathways, just like an electrician installs a new wire to a light switch. Okay. Who hasn't read yet that would like to read? Has everybody read?
I'll read again.
Okay, thank you.
From book 2, 5-second light switch. When I get stressed, I just flip my switch, one GOGI student said when he was discussing the GOGI tool called 5-second light switch. He simply remembered that to flip the switch meant that he would do his choice of actions within 5 seconds of a negative thought. He would, what a cool way to redirect your energy from the negative. Switch and use a 5-second switch means that regardless of what's going on around you, it is up to you to create the positive response. You no longer need to be controlled by the circumstance or the actions of others. With 5-second light switch, you are totally and completely and utterly in control of your life experience. When you arm yourself with a GOGI tool called 5-second light switch, you may find that life is not as stressful. You feel less anxiety or anger. Why is this? Our GOGI students say that just knowing they're in control of their actions and that their reactions takes the pressure off and permits them to enjoy life a little more. Their destiny is not beyond their control. It makes sense. When you are constantly worried about who might say something that gets you upset, it's pretty stressful because you can't control the action of others. It's natural to move through your day with high levels of anxiety when your experiences are under the control of others. For GOGI students who use the 5-second light switch, however, they do not feel as much tension because they know that regardless of what's going on around them, they have the ultimate decision on their responses. 5-second light switch has been defined by some GOGI students as a neurological wedge they put into place to redirect their brain's processing. They use this wedge to train the brain to respond in a new, and more positive manner. The beauty of 5-second light switch is that in its simplicity, within 5 seconds of a negative thought, you choose a positive action. This action could be belly breathing. Hey, somebody said that. This action could be turning away. This action could be sitting down or doing sit-ups. Albert will do the sit-ups. Sorry. In truth, it does not matter what the positive action may be, as long as it is diversion from the possible negative action. When you flip
Well, we can't hear you.
I can't see anymore.
Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe I need to scroll down. There you go.
I always lose my place. Oh, switch. Kind of cool that something so simple as 5-second light switch can result in a redirect of a destiny. One bad decision and a future is decided. Similarly, with 5-second light switch, the entire world may become your playground. Flip the switch and see what happens. Love, Coach.
Awesome. Okay, so we learned a little bit about things that we've talked about before. So what is a wedge? What did we learn a wedge was?
Redirecting.
Correct. So what can be a wedge?
Belly breathing.
Your action.
Correct.
Your positive action,
Okay.
whatever it is.
Give it. So what are some examples?
Sit-ups.
Exercising.
Right. Listening to music. Remember when Coach was on the call with us, she started dancing, listening to music, getting in a car and driving. So anything that, so I was trying to figure out, a wedge. So the only thing I could think of, how you put that thing in the door, like the wedge in the door to keep the door from moving. But then I was like, okay, well, that didn't really make sense with what we were talking about. So then I started thinking about basically a dam that beavers create little dams. So a wedge basically is something that kind of stops something from going a certain way and then directs you to a different way, right? So I was thinking kind of like, the beavers putting up a little dam, water flow stops there, and it creates a new pathway where it has to go. That basically, that's pretty much, I guess, what a wedge does, that new neural pathway that's getting created. So
you might want to consider changing or talking to her about changing the word wedge, because now that you put it as a door, like as a door stop, it's just stopping the thought. What we want to do is create new thoughts and get rid of that one. So maybe look for another word, like you said, like dam or something else, because
because when I think of, I get what she's saying about a wedge, but I don't think a wedge fully. Yeah, see, that's why I was having a hard time with the word wedge. I was trying to figure out something else, because a wedge doesn't really denote stopping a certain flow and then creating something else, which is basically what we're doing, right? We're taking our old thought and we're creating a new pathway, right? Trying to create a new habit. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, maybe we should think of something else besides a wedge, because that just, for whatever reason, didn't really, I couldn't really comprehend that. Okay, but the whole thing is that, whatever we do that gets our mind off of that old negative thought can be considered a wedge. Belly breathing is a great one. All right. Now, we're focusing on anxiety, right? So what did it talk about there? What we'll do using our 5-second light switch, it can help us be less what?
Stressed.
Okay. And what can come with stress?
Heart attack.
And anxiety, right?
Anxiety.
So we're trying to, it could keep us from becoming more anxious because we're stopping that reaction to whatever it is. Does anybody understand the whole thing about being the light person and the whole thing with the lights? Why can't I find that? Where we choose which lights we want to turn on. Where is that? Oh, why can I never find it? So we have control over, is it up here? Oh, right here. Electrician installs a new wire to a light. Well, no, but there was something else where it said basically like if we're in a big, I don't know, where they have like concerts and crap and they have all these lights, you could choose which lights you want to flip on and which lights you don't want to flip on. Do you guys understand that? Because I'm having a really hard time putting that concept and working that out in my head.
So basically, it's like a contractor. When they're an electrician, we have an electrical box, like when you have it at home. A fuse goes off.
Okay.
And you have the power of turning out that fuse on or on because it has an on and off button. So using the 5-second light switch in your brain is your diagram of your fuses, per se.
Okay.
You have
Okay.
a power turning on and off that fuse for the moment. We're not going to say for the day or for the rest of your life, but for that moment, you have the power by using the 5-second light switch to turn off that fuse and turn the other one on.
Okay. Okay. All right. So I'm sitting here and I'm looking at I have 2 lights in my room. I've got my GOGI light and then I've got this little hall light where my closet is. And so I guess that makes sense because there's times when when my one light doesn't give enough light. So instead I'll turn on the hallway light right here by my closet. Okay, so maybe I could think of it that way. I can choose which one of these lights to turn on, right?
Like surge protector. You know how it has about 6.
Oh, okay.
You have the choice
where
of
it'll flip something.
What you want plugged in.
Okay.
Plug it out of the surge protector and the power is off. So it's the 5-second light switch. You're going to turn the power on by plugging it back in. But you get it?
I do get it because I came from the 80s where we blew dry our hair every day and that sucker would always blow. My trip would always go off because it was too powerful. I hated that. Okay, so basically I need to have a surge protector in my head that shuts off whatever it is I'm thinking to prevent me from, overloading the rest of the fuse box. Ah, thank you, Joanne. Okay, that makes sense to me. Okay. All right. Okay, so that makes sense. All right, so any other thoughts on this part? I can't remember where we were. Where were we, guys?
Right there. Thoughts from Coach Lee Carlson.
Okay. Okay. All right, I'll go ahead and read that. So thoughts from Coach Lee Carlson, 5-second light switch. 5-second light switch is like a little miracle in my life, and it can be in your life as well. Today, because I have 5-second light switch, I am prepared to combat triggers and deal in a healthy way with irritation, anger, or stress. I can evaluate alternative positive actions and get to those alternative actions in order to refrain from reacting in a way that is not my very best. 5-second light switch is helpful for everything from starting your day off on the right foot to avoiding conflict throughout the day. With your 5-second light switch, you are focused on getting a positive action, and the negative thoughts simply become less powerful. I put 5-second light switch into action when I feel overwhelmed or if my thoughts are not productive. I give myself positive thoughts which affirm that my goal for the day is to be my very best. Every action I take that day will become positive because I have a 5-second light switch. I can flip the switch, get rid of the negative, and get to a positive action. When people are impulsive or reactionary and don't take the time to think about our responses or reactions and measure the possible outcome, changing that behavior can seem nearly impossible, but it is not. You can rewire your brain and you can begin to react differently to situations that have previously caused you harm or harm to others. We've read this a couple times. Do you guys want to read this again? I was going to try to jump down to some of the new information because we've got a lot of it. Okay. So this was just the experience about how the guy dealt differently with a CO, and it became positive for him. But I wanted to get down to here because this is the new one of the new things that a coach had said. So 5-second light switch is one of those handy tools GOGI students use in many different ways, but the basic concept of the tool's use and function remains intact. For some, flipping the 5-second light switch is as simple as naming off 5 loved ones' names. For others, flipping their switch includes reaching for a glass of water. For others, 5-second light switch includes a quick review why the old choices do not work before moving to a new action. And for others, it's as simple as walking over to a light switch on a wall and turning it on and off a few times as the reminder that a new light is shed on a very old and worn subject. However, 5-second light switch might work best for you. However, 5-second However, there shouldn't be a comma there. However, 5-second light switch might work best for you. The concept is pretty simple. When the intrusion of unwanted urge, man, who wrote that? Unwanted urges or unwanted urge or thought enters your mind, you simply flip the switch and get to a pre-planned positive action within seconds. It seems to work best when the replacement action is well thought out under many circumstances. For example, you can't reach for a glass of water as your positive action if you get you can't reach for a glass of water as your positive action if you get an urge to smoke unless you have taken that water into the car with you. Having the ability to complete your positive action is key, as without it being very easy to reach for, you might fall victim to the ease of blaming your poor choice on not having an alternative. Crap, I do that all the time. Your key is to flip the switch and claim your right to be in command of your mind's and your body's activities. It can be your choice to make a weak or a strong decision when you put to use your 5-second light switch. The great thing about the human mind is that it can run on autopilot for us. The worst thing about the human mind is that it can run on autopilot for us. On which side of the living experience will you choose to spend the most time? That is determined in great part by your willingness to make the strong choices and no longer abdicate your right to a chaos-free life. The more you realize that the chaos is controlled by your strong decisions, the more you will understand the simple, the elegant, the immediately available power of the GOGI tool 5-second light switch. The great thing about life is that you can do anything and all things different today. You do not need to repeat yesterday's choices. True, the old choices may be more comfortable when you that should probably be hit, when you hit a repeat button, but flipping your 5-second light switch often enough will permit you to see just how new today really becomes. A whole lot of good bits in there. Any comments on this? Anything you guys liked that stood out?
How we need the way they talk about taking the water with you to the car for using it.
Yeah.
We do the action right there and then when we're upset or going through our anxiety attack or for the moment, but then we forget to carry out the water bottle with us to the car.
Right.
So
right.
Reintegrating in our brain that we have to take it with us, not leave it there, because either you resolve the issue or the anxiety's gone. We have to continue planting that seed in our brain, or like the water bottle, keep pouring water on that seed so it could grow and become a habit versus just the immediate action at that time.
Yeah. And I relate that to dieting. Okay, for whatever reason, I relate that to dieting. If I don't have a pre-planned answer for something, if I'm going to go somewhere or whatever, or I am really rushing, so I jump in the car, I don't take anything to eat, I know my blood sugar is going to get low, right? And then I start freaking out and getting anxiety because I know I'm going to become a bitch really quick, so I go and eat crap because I didn't plan better. So I think that kind of goes along with anything. Sometimes we get so busy, we don't plan out for what to expect. And we need to be able to have, as it said, a planned positive action. Or we're going to blame our poor choice on not having an alternative. And a lot of times that's just life in general. I was forced to do this because I didn't have any money. I had to hustle here because I didn't have this. Somebody didn't help me out, so I had to go do this. It's like we always kind of reason and blame our poor choices on not having alternatives.
Yeah, we always justify bad choices.
Yes, right. But we don't need to, right? If we plan ahead of time and then actually follow through. I don't know how many times I've made a really awesome lunch to take to work when I used to work inside of the house, and I leave without the freaking lunch. And so it's like sitting at home, but it's not doing me any good. you know? It was dinner, but I needed it during the day, so I didn't go to McDonald's. So yeah, so we actually have to like work all the way through making sure that
But even
works
when you
right.
go to McDonald's, your 5-second light switch on McDonald's is to eat healthy. We can still eat healthy when we go to McDonald's.
Oh, that's no fun, Joanne. Come on. Are you kidding? When those fries
No,
are fresh,
no, no. See, the
oh,
action was there. You
hell
forgot
to the
your lunch,
nah.
so if you're gonna go eat junk food, then you have to make a better choice. That's your 5-second
Listen,
light switch.
I know that. I'm not there yet. I'm like, I gotta be like, don't even go to
I'm
McDonald's
gonna
because I
text
already
you every
know.
day. It's like 5-second light switch.
Oh man, I come from a long line of fat asses. I'm sorry, we don't go to McDonald's and ask for the little apple
Okay, and
wedges.
where are you gonna cut the umbilical cord now?
Right? There's my excuse. Right? Exactly. And both my parents died before the age of 60, so I probably shouldn't even be using that as an excuse right there. I know, I got 9 years before, and then I'm like, I need to get stuff straight. Okay. All right. So we're gonna jump over good old Hube's challenge. I'm gonna do a meeting on Wednesday, so we'll jump on that one Wednesday since Monica and Rebecca couldn't be here. I wanted to. We've only got 10 minutes, and yeah, there's always like all this. There's always such good stuff. But I wanted to try to get through this whole space data shifting that Coach was talking about. So I thought we could kind of read through this because I don't know, it didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. So who wants to read? Who wants to read like this first page?
I'll read. Start
Okay.
at the freeway traffic is easily diverted?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Freeway traffic is easily diverted. It is easier to redirect on a freeway than to stop traffic altogether. The neurology of your body is similar to traffic on a freeway. If you want cars to travel down a different road, you are going to have to put a roadblock to move the traffic in the desired direction. You need to be persistent in swapping the thought. Eventually, the traffic will get the idea that the old freeway is not going to be traveled. When you break an old habit, you actually create an alternate neurological pathway or freeway of communication inside your body, permitting the old thought to exist for 5 full seconds and then consciously replacing it with another thought. It is like diverting traffic instead of trying to stop it head on. Stopping an entire freeway of traffic is not easy, but getting drivers to take a new off ramp is more effective because it's less stressful, demanding, causes fewer collisions, and promotes a smoother transition. Remember, space plus data plus shift equals change. Change sometimes takes a while. Remember that sometimes lasting change happens slowly and may take a long time, especially when we break or change old habits by replacing them with new ways of thinking, behaving, or believing. Sometimes change is so slow that we don't even know it's happening. Trust the process and just keep moving forward. Usually, those who are consistent with slow and steady changes are more successful at maintaining those changes over time. They keep moving forward even if they mess up, and are likely to be happier and more successful in the long haul. When an individual constantly moves towards new ways of thinking and being, it is likely the changes will last for a long time. The process of change is actually predictable. When data or information is available, the process of change begins. When there is enough space for the information to grow into new ideas and new thoughts, then the process of change continues with a shift. When change happens and it is sustained for a long enough period to form habit within the body, the process of change has completed its cycle. Everyone can change how they think, how they act, how they react, and how they feel. The space data shift equals change. Equation describes the process. Gather your information, the data, give yourself room inside your head and with your actions for it to have a positive effect, space, you will eventually shift and get the new change you long to experience. Sustain the change you long to experience, sustain the change long enough, and you will have a new automatic habits. Continue.
Awesome. Yeah, we're almost done. Go ahead.
Okay. One step at a time. Changing one habit, one way of thinking at a time will permit you to master your changes in small doses. Focus on wiring one room at a time instead of trying to rewire an entire house all at once. Women often become over enthusiastic. Really? They set
Remember, this is from the Pink Book. I forgot to swap that out.
they set high expectations and suddenly become overwhelmed. They get
Oh, God,
irritated
that's
and
so me.
blame an ineffective process for their failure. Some people claim that they are different and have tried everything, or they simply cannot change. Perhaps they did not want to change in the first place.
Mm.
Here's why the light switch works. 5-second light switch works because most people have a difficult time stopping or often have an easier experience replacing. The 5-second light switch is a wedge placed in the current flow of the neurons that sends information down another, more productive path. As a child to stop a behavior, and it is likely that they will continue. Their focus is on the undesirable behavior. They don't know what to do as a replacement for it, or how to promote positive actions. When you divert a child's attention by offering an alternative, you are stopping the undesirable behavior. Observe others. Take a few moments today to uh, speak less. Observing the habits of others is usually easier if you keep your own thoughts silent. You can begin to witness their automatic reactions and automatic behaviors. You might observe them dictating their ability to create the kind of life they want. Then you will see how powerless they truly have become. You will see how powerless they truly have become. You will see
What?
that. Is that twice?
Yeah, how weird. Yeah, it's twice.
Okay. You will see that
Become.
other posturing and tough girl talk, they are really at the mercy of situations others around them. How will you use a 5-second light switch? If you were suffering from old patterns or of behavior of others that continue day after day, what new habit would you create as a replacement? Also observe yourself. When could you begin to use the new 5-second light switch as a tool to get back in the driver's seat of your life? Try the 5-second light switch in one specific area of your life. Test it out long enough to let it work. Maybe you can pick one person and begin to build an alternate response pattern to their predictable communication. By the way, the 5-second light switch helps enormously with two of the most powerful automatic habits to which people give up their power: drug addiction and compulsive thoughts. Action
Awesome.
with the tool.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and stop. Let's go ahead and stop there, because I want to give us some time to just. This was a lot of stuff. Okay, so space plus data plus shift equals change. Who can explain that?
The way I got it, the spaces were freeing up our brain from our thoughts to create new memories or new thoughts. The data is obviously the old thoughts that we had. We want to create new data to eventually shift our thought process or our reactions, basically our reactions towards the new information that we're inputting into our system or into our brains to create a new habit. That's what I got from it.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I got too. So we're figuring out what we're going to use as our positive action, right? Okay, then I think maybe because like right here it's got data and then space, but I guess it doesn't matter. So here's our new action, our positive action, and then we actually are giving ourselves enough space to apply that, and then that will cause a shift in our thinking, which when done enough times will then become a change in how we do things. And I liked the fact that it brought out that there's times where we have to just trust, the process, that we want to keep moving forward, even if it seems like maybe we're not getting a whole lot of, we're not making a whole lot of progress. But I really like I love illustrations. I like the illustration about the freeway. Because, right, you know, have you ever noticed, like, instead of stopping, you know, when there's an accident and they clear the accident, a lot of times they don't just let all the traffic just go, right? They got the cop in the front that's swooping back and forth slowly, you know, and slowly just leading the traffic out all at a nice pace, maybe a little bit faster, until he finally gets off the freeway. And that way there's not going to be a big backlog, and instead of just stopping all traffic altogether, he's kind of like giving it an alternate pathway to go until you can actually take off. But hello? Did you guys hear that? That's weird. I just heard something really weird in my ear. Okay, so we're basically giving ourselves space. We're analyzing what we're thinking about, and then instead of just stopping it, right, we're looking at it. Okay. Any other thoughts about this? Science? No? Okay. All right. We'll go ahead and stop there. We didn't get to ask any questions, but, oh, check this out. I love this. I love this one. Do you see the little, it's got a, see, it's got, this is like this arrow. Yeah, the on and off, and it's got the arrows where this whole thing, I think, like flips up or whatever. I just thought that was so cool. It kind of reminds me of the Hulk, right? I'm wondering if that's what he's supposed to be, the Hulk. Okay. So we'll go ahead. I'm going to schedule another meeting for Wednesday for Monica and Rebecca, and maybe we can touch on a few more points. There's just a lot of information now that I'm adding in the science, and maybe because there's certain parts that we've already read a few times, we can kind of skip those and then bring in the new stuff. So, but all in all, I think this was I definitely got a whole lot more out of 5-second light switch this time than I did last time we reviewed it. It's starting to make more sense to me. Okay. So if there's no more comments, we're at 9:28. Alfred, or would you like to lead us in the GOGI pledge, por favor?
Yes. Okay. Let's go. Repeat after me. May our commitment.
May our commitment.
May our commitment
To the study of GOGI.
To the study of GOGI.
Grant us the joy.
Grant us the joy.
Grant us the joy.
Of giving and receiving.
Of giving and receiving.
So that our inner freedom.
So that our inner
freedom.
May be of maximum service.
May be of maximum
service.
To those we love.
To those we love.
To those we love.
And infinite others.
And infinite others.
And infinite others.
Yeah.
All right. We invite you to join us for our next meeting to be held this Wednesday at 8:30, where we will study the GOGI tool, 5-second light switch. All right. Ready? 1, 2, 3. GOGI for life.
GOGI for life.
Awesome. Alfred, I didn't hear you.
You didn't hear me.
I didn't hear you.
You're not going to get away with it.
And I didn't see your little microphone move when you were talking.
No?
Go ahead, give it to us. Come on, give it to us, GOGI leader.
GOGI for life.
Oh, all right, cool. All right, thanks, you guys. See you on the group. Have a good evening.
You too.
Bye. Bye.
Good talking to you. Bye.